Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Millennials Revealed. And here on Millennials Revealed, what are we here to do? We are here to create climates of inclusion and cultures of collaboration across the generations. So we're going to focus on ways that we can help millennials live out their dreams and help those interested in connecting with this generation understand how to truly connect with them in a meaningful way. That's why we're here. That is the purpose of this segment. And hopefully we are making an impact across the planet. That's what we're here to do, Doctor. So
Wow.
let me introduce you all and thank you all for tuning in, for joining us on this session tonight. I see a number of people over there. What is it? Manny St. Victor, MD, the Queen Curator. Who else do we have on there? We have a number of people on there. I think I saw my man. Who's that? Naima. We got several people on there. So we're going to go ahead and introduce you, our very, very special guest for the evening. But I've gotten a chance to know you over these past couple of days, know you really well, and I am thoroughly impressed.
Oh, thank you.
Thoroughly impressed with you and your accomplishments. But I would like for you to introduce yourself to the world for those who don't know you and don't know what you do. And tell us just a little bit about yourself and where you are, and make sure you include where you are right now.
Okay.
And show a little bit of your beautiful scenery and surroundings as a part of your introduction.
Okay.
All right. Talk to the people.
Well, hello. My name is Erica Goodwin. I am an MD, also known as a medical doctor. I'm a psychiatrist. So that means I am a medical doctor and I can prescribe medication, even though my personal theory about medication is minimal medication for maximum effect. So I don't like to give people meds and drugs if they don't need them.
Okay. All right.
I am originally from St. Louis, Missouri, not
All right.
Ferguson, but I got my first driver's license ever in Ferguson.
Okay. Nice. All right.
Yes. I currently reside in Atlanta.
ATL.
I am currently at a conference and we had some location issues. So I am sitting on the floor in a hallway.
Ladies and gentlemen, well, hold up. Everybody that is on here right now, I need everybody to give her props. That is commitment. Do you hear me? I want everybody that is in the live chat right now to give her props. She is sitting in a lonely hallway in some random hotel because she is serious about her commitments. I'm going to give you a couple more for that. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Goodwin.
I feel the love already. Let's see what else is there. I am a graduate of Spelman College.
Okay, Spelman. All right. HBCU in the building.
Pre-college, I was a product of public schools, but those public schools aren't as good as they were when I was there.
It's all right. We're going to turn that around, though. We're going to help turn that around.
And I went to medical school at Emory.
Okay.
I did my general psychiatry residency at Morehouse School of Medicine, and I did my child training at Harvard.
All right. Excellent. So
and
you
now
got some St. Louis, some ATL, some Beantown. You got a little bit of everything going on.
Yeah, and one little brief period I worked on the Hill, so I've been lots of random places. And now I'm a traveling psychiatrist.
So talk to us a little bit about mental health, right? The topic tonight is addressing mental health with millennials. And I spend a lot of my time, energy, effort, and resources on really helping to inspire and empower this generation to get in alignment with their assignment, to do the things that they've been called to do with their lives, to achieve levels of love and happiness that also helps to contribute to the progression of the rest of the world and society. So that's the focus. That's my focus.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
So I understand the importance of having your mind right, as we like to say, get your mind right. Right. But I have a better understanding of what I need to do to strengthen my physical health. I even have a better understanding of what I need to do to strengthen my spiritual health. Right. So I know some exercises that I can do to address my physical health. Right. And I can do some push-ups. I can do some planks. I can do some pull-ups. I go for a run. Right. And so if I need to really strengthen my faith muscles, I get into that word. Right. I go here, pastor. I go here, bishop. I'm down here in North Carolina. I'm in the Bible Belt, so I get a good, I get some of that. Help me and everyone else understand a little bit about mental health and what that even means. I'm sure there are people who don't even understand what that means.
Well, the interesting thing is mental health, the term sometimes starts sounding kind of scary.
It does.
Because when you say mental health, people, usually the first thing that comes out of their mouth, if they aren't someone that is that educated about mental health, is, I'm not crazy. So it's like, when people say mental health, a lot of folks' reaction is they think of the word crazy.
Yeah.
Or if it's someone that is probably a non-millennial, because this will date me, they will start thinking of like One Who Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Oh yeah, little Jack Nicholson.
Yeah, and they'll think about those kinds of things, and that's what the indicator they'll use when they think of mental health.
For my millennials out there, that is a movie. It is a classic movie about a man who was in an insane asylum. But I digress. My millennials may not make that connection, so please continue.
Well, the great thing is Google it. But to me, the more useful way to look at it is to look at it more as mental wellness. So how you go, you get a physical, make sure everything's going okay with your physical body.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that often that people kind of do a checkup or pay that much of what's going on to their mind. It's kind of, you think about it when stuff starts going sideways, but not necessarily proactively thinking about it. We have someone coming to the hallway. Let's see what happens.
Uh-oh. We got our eye on you.
Yeah. Okay.
We good?
Yes, we're good.
All right.
We're still maintaining.
Okay.
But when I look at it, when you shift the wording to wellness, it's kind of you're looking out for your mind and what kind of space your mind is in, because the mind, body, and spirit are all connected.
Right.
So the interesting thing is when your mind's out of whack, your body will feel it. They have fancy medical term for it. They'll call it somatic symptoms. Historically, sometimes you'll see that kind of symptomatology even more prevalent in younger people or people of color, but it can happen for anyone. But that's like when, even on a lower level, if you start feeling stressed out or you're worried or you have this presentation coming up, you might start sweating, you might get a headache, a stomach ache. I think everyone's had a time when they went to school and were younger and either somebody was picking on them or something was going on that day they didn't want. Their tummy starts aching.
So the mental affects the physical.
Yeah. So sometimes.
And the spiritual as well.
So what can happen a lot of times is your body, then I look at it this way, that your mind gives your body a cue to kind of check and see what's going on. So you may not necessarily be clued in that I'm starting to get mentally out of whack, but you might then start getting more headaches, more stomach aches, and being out of whack doesn't mean necessarily that you've gotten to the point where you have a diagnosable disorder. And I think that's kind of a lot of times when people think of mental health, they think, do you have this big, humongous diagnosable disorder? And when you look at it in mental wellness, it's kind of doing a check that you're taking care of yourself, even if it's something small, and along with the whole continuum of if it's something big. So be it being clued into what your own kind of middle ground is to see when you're kind of floating off or on. So, when you're starting to get more stressed at work, or when you realize that you're getting more irritable at home, or you have less patience with your kids, or your concentration isn't quite as good. So you realize, when you proofread your material, you're making more errors in documents, or your spell check is more active.
Let me ask you this. So with this generation, right? And I would imagine that you service people across the generations. I'm sure you have baby boomer clients, you have Gen X clients, you have millennial clients, I would imagine, right? And so looking at the different generations, each generation has their own events and things that have taken place in their generation that has affected them in one way or the other, right? Psychologically, physically, emotionally, whether it was, the World War II, or whether it was, for this generation, for Generation X, it was the crack cocaine epidemic, right? I mean, and, for this generation, 9/11, and the wars that have been taking place, Afghanistan. And so And then when I look at some of the things that are taking place with this generation now, right? The largest student loan debt in history, the highest unemployment rate that we've seen for youth and young adults and it's double digits. It's been that way for years, right? Suffering, the biggest sufferers of the recession, and we look at the unemployment, right? And the deferred home ownership and the deferred of getting married simply for financial reasons. And so a lot of stresses and, there is so much is going on with race relations right now. We're seeing so much is in flux with race relations, gender roles, just so many things that it's a new era that has brought upon so much, and the advent of technology with so much ability to constantly compare yourself to any and everyone else. If I needed to know who was better than me at something when I was growing up, I had to see it in action down the street, or on the field, or on the court, right? You can constantly compare at the click of a button now. So I see all of these, what I would consider added pressures to this generation of young people. How is that affecting their mental health, if at all? Or is that just, we're built for this. You're wired to deal with this, so don't trip.
That was like a marathon question.
That's what I do.
Okay, I think I'm gonna have to put that one in a couple of different boxes. So the first part seems like, how does the social climate and what it is, what makes it special, and how it relates to millennials?
Yes.
I think the interesting thing is when you contrast, especially the effects of the recession on the millennials versus our peer group. Because I feel like our peer group had like huge losses in that recession. It was a little bit different than like the baby boomers and what they lost, but a lot of our peers, and you probably know people that were doing really well, were really successful. Mm-hmm. That last recession hit and they all lost their homes, were unemployed for 6 months to a year or even longer. And I think the interesting thing when you look at that particular recession is it set up a situation where Gen X was more dealing with loss. That there were a lot of them were people, you had this group or band of people that were Gen X or even baby boomers that had been successful, that all of a sudden lost, everything. And when they had that loss, then you had people not only just having a traditional, what you would look at like a socioeconomic loss. Well, I lost my job. I don't have any money. I might not have a house. I start losing material things and then the ability to provide for my family. But then you started seeing all of these people flood into like public mental health systems or public health systems, because then they lost their insurance, because we're primarily our health insurance in this country, especially prior to the, I don't want to Affordable Care Act, because I don't want to just say Obamacare.
Go ahead, say it. Obamacare.
Is that then you had people flooding the system that really wasn't totally prepared to absorb the amount of new clients that came into these systems that no longer had private insurance. When you look at those same situations in the millennials, it's almost like it turned into a false start. So a lot of them, it wasn't that they were on this trajectory and then they just lost everything. It's like this phenomenon of this kind of false start, that they were on this path. They were, educated as most of us were, that, you work hard, you do this, you go to school, go to college, and you're going to get a great job. And
I hear it. I hear it all the time.
And it was more of, theirs was almost a false start. So they started this trajectory with this plan that in past generations, it was.
And then the guy that shot the starter gun was just like, oh, I'm just playing. Yeah. Y'all can't really start yet. Y'all got to start over.
And then it's like you get in, they got there, and they went to school, and, people really, I feel like it's just the last kind of 5 or 10 years, folks started really catching on to the fact that these student loans are no joke, and the cost of education has gone up so much that, folks will be going to boo-boo the fool undergrad and amassing loan debt higher than I did at Emory Medical School. And this will be for like a degree in business administration, or like my cousin had a degree in kinesiology, and literally could not afford to pay her student loans, but they're getting a loan debt that the only way you can almost even make enough money to pay that debt be in STEM.
Right. Yeah. So the ROI is just like,
yeah,
it's not commensurate to what you get.
I guess we should say what STEM is first. Some folks may not be as familiar with STEM, but those are like the science, technology, and math fields. So, and the average person, everybody's not going into a STEM field, but, STEM fields are ones that you could have probably a bachelor's level education and still make enough money to potentially make a student loan payment. Because I think of what my student loan payments are a month. If I was making $35,000, $40,000 a year, I feel like I was just dead in the water.
Hey, yo, I ain't even gonna front. They had to take mine. They came and got it. I was like, I looked at I thought I was going to get a tax return one day. I was going to give me some spinners. Nope.
And the complicated thing about it is then on top of that, you then had how the recession impacted their parents or their older siblings who would have kicked in financially to help boost them and get them launched. And nobody else had any money either. So you had this huge disparity between there's the crew that's either old money or new money and had enough money that it didn't matter what happened during the recession. But then it was kind of everybody that was middle class, lower middle class, barely making it. So
what were millennials coming to? So, I mean, you make a really good point. Like, they were sold this American dream. Then all of these things happened and spiraled out of control. The housing market, the recession, the student loan is crazy. You're not getting any ROI on your student loan. And, now we've got all of this racial tension that has resurfaced and people are making reference like back to the 60s. And so all of everything is just so crazy in there as they're coming of age. So when they're coming to you, what are they coming to you with? Are they saying like, yo, doc, like, what's good? Like, I'm bugging out right now. Like, yo, this ain't what it was cracked up to be.
Well,
give me some drugs.
You really just said, give me some drugs.
Oh, I'm just saying. How's that work?
Hold on, I was trying to get on. They sent me a message, and apparently, since I'm on my phone, I can't really do it all at one time. Okay, there we go. I got it now. All right. Sorry about that, folks. All right. So, I think it's a lot of just loss, but some of it's not even when people come in and they have their complaints. It's not like I'm a millennial.
Right. Yeah. Right. But the people in that life stage that have been affected that way.
But I think it's almost creating a younger identity crisis because they're trying to figure out what is the meaning and who they are and where they're going when the identity they had already set up for themselves, is now being challenged. And then it's also in a lot of millennials were raised a little bit differently than like Gen Xers or baby boomers.
Yeah, we told them they was good at everything. We gave them like 18th place trophies. So now all of a sudden we tell them they good at everything. And now they not succeeding in nothing.
Well, the thing is, and I did do a little random net surfing earlier. But so I won't say what I'm saying is unique, not because I read it, but just because, I'm not going to say I'm brilliant and I came up with every idea on the planet.
Well, I will say it. You are brilliant.
But it's looking at the level of resilience and how different cultures were raised and what the resilience is. So as an example, I'd give, we're African American, and there are a lot of people that are millennials that were African American and that had actually bought into this theory that we are post-racial. And we have a new visitor in the hallway.
Uh-oh. We got to keep our eye. Everybody make sure we watch out for my girl, Dr. Goodwin. Make sure she stays safe in that lonely hallway.
But when that happened, it's almost like, I use it as an example because I feel like it's one that's very easy to demonstrate. So all of us that didn't grow up with this idea that it's post-racial grew up with certain assumptions about the world. One of the assumptions we were all taught was the world is not fair.
Mm-hmm.
We had no expectation that it'd be fair. We had no expectation that anybody would treat us fairly. You would hope they treat you fairly. But
right.
You were taught that the default is the world's not fair. people are not going to treat you fairly all the time. There are going to be a wide variety of times where you are either mistreated, underestimated, or undervalued due to your race. You have to work twice as hard. And that's what you came to the field with. And that was, and I use it in that sense, but I think it comes in other things when you start looking at the 10 million place trophies and that kind of stuff. But you were taught that you were rewarded for hard work.
Right.
And if something didn't go well, then you got to find a way to make it work. And with the example of going back to post-racial, then you have this generation of young people who were totally taken aback. Racial climate got to the point where the veil was fully lifted to the point where there was no way that anybody with an IQ higher than 70 could ignore the fact that something was awry. Now, you can make an argument that people have numerous interpretations of these facts.
I will say, in all honesty, I would think that did catch some millennials off guard. I mean, working with this generation, there were beliefs that, well, not true in your generation or older generation, my parents' generation. I think you guys dealt more with racism than we have to do. I think people were just hating on me because I'm young. It's not because I'm Black. They hating on me because I'm young. I don't really see it that it's a racial thing. I think it's an age thing. I have literally heard that time and time and time again. So I do think it became a bit of a shock and caught them off guard when they did encounter and have a revelation that, oh, wow, like this does have something to do with race or culture.
And then using that, extrapolating that example out, then you have the portion of people that had this epiphany that, oh my God, racism still exists. I really had no idea. That either one, they're so overwhelmed because they have no coping skills to deal with it, work around it, or manage the situation. Or then you get the other opposite end, which are the younger people or millennials that are spearheading social change,
right?
That have had that traditional millennial mindset of, I don't have to accept the status quo. I can change it because I'm an independent free thinker. I can change the world, so you end up with that kind of dichotomy of either, oh my God, this is going on, I need to change the world. And then there's, oh my God, I'm about to have crisis because I have no idea how to deal with the situation.
Well, that's interesting because I think, as I talk about some of the millennial attributes, and one of the things that I'm very encouraged about with this generation is if I had to give them a mantra, it would be a better world starts with a better me. They really do want to identify their purpose and their calling and leverage their gifts and their passions and their purpose to impact change, or to affect change, I should say, in the world. I really am encouraged that this generation seems to be really focused on, what? We've inherited a mess of a world, so they blame us. They blame the older generations. All right. Hey, look, it is what it is. They got it. They didn't create this situation. So their perspective, we've inherited this mess. So it is up to us to make it right. So they are on a mission to change the world. So I think a lot of it has resulted in that, which is encouraging.
And then kind of speaking to the next part of your question is there are things that are different about their culture, especially, I think you made up a really good point when I listened to your last cast, was that actually it was B's podcast, but the point that the millennials were the first generation that grew up entirely with technology.
Yeah.
And, I think it goes beyond kind of the thoughts of fear of missing out, but it's just all the different aspects that technology brings, from having major developmental periods where, one of the biggest ways you learn is through, patterns of failure and success. You try something, you fail, or it doesn't go as well. You try it again and come up with strategies until you make it work.
Right.
And then being at a place where while you're doing those things and making the normal mistakes that any, 12-year-old, teenager, young adult, young college student did, and there is a record of it.
Right.
So I think on one hand, being plugged in, it sets up this situation where, you go, that's probably the first generation that all of them could go to job interviews. The job situation has changed to the point where, all these companies have people hired that are trolling social media, looking for your social media imprint or footprint.
Yeah.
And, things that any of us would have done when we were younger.
Say that again. We need to do a whole separate blab on social media responsibility.
Is now there. I mean, can you think of what would have happened if every time we got mad at our parents and, maybe you were just talking to your friend on the phone, like, I'm mad at my mama, she made me do this. And it's Twitter posts and, someone had a walk of shame and there's video of it on Instagram.
Right.
It's just the culture of
that walk of shame has become a walk of pride. But I digress.
But just regular developmental behavior and mistakes are now documented, and not only are they documented to review and say, "Ooh, not sexy,"
right,
or "Ooh, I don't think you can get this job because you were half naked on Facebook the other week," or "Ooh, you fired because I saw you posting about such and such," or you posted an opinion that's not popular with our company. You violated your ethics clause, or
right. But these are real occurrences that have happened over the past couple of years.
So you have that element, and then the element of not only is it the element of that constant comparison, because a lot of them are either plugged in because they want to be or feel the pressure to be plugged in to all these different modalities. So they're comparing themselves against what they're seeing their peers do, be it social situations or academic pursuits or jobs or, relationships, friendships. But not only are they comparing themselves, but, there are a lot of folks that create kind of a social media identity or persona that is not consistent with what their life actually is,
with who they are. Yeah.
So the people, not only are they comparing themselves to others, but they're comparing themselves to kind of, I don't want to say whitewash because we're having these racial moments, but they're comparing themselves to these scrubbed, clean, pristine, self-created versions of life.
Hey, so look, people are not what they post to be. I tell that to young people all the time. You have to remember, everybody is not what they post to be. Now, let me ask you this, doctor. Let me ask you this, doc. So I was speaking at a school recently, and one of the things that I talk about when I'm speaking to students, I'm speaking at a college, and I emphasize to young people, be careful not to suffer death by distraction, particularly in this era of social media. And I shared my point that I offer when I talk on that subject matter. And when I was done, I talked about some other things, but after I was done, a young man came up to me and he thanked me for sharing that point and elaborating on that. And he said, because, you were describing me, and the death by distraction that I'm talking about is, don't get caught up looking at yourself in other people's mirrors. Because when you go on social media and you see these things that other people are posting and you're comparing yourself to them, oh, wow, like look at all the girls he has, or look at all of the cars. Look at how well he's doing. Look at this job he just landed. Look at the Louis this, the Gucci that, whatever, right? You're comparing yourself constantly. And that's why I say this is a culture of constant comparison. And so the young man admitted to me that he was like, I believe that I was, and this is his self-diagnosis, but he's like, I believe I was actually depressed. He said, I never told anybody. It was just like, I just kind of went into my own hole, in this hole of darkness. I didn't want to be around anybody, talk to anybody. He's like, thanks for sharing that, because it's given me some. Now, I'm no counselor. I'm no psychiatrist. There was that one time in Vegas, but I digress.
When you stayed at Holiday Inn Express?
No, I actually said I was a psychiatrist, but that's a whole nother. Hey, it was Vegas, right? It was Vegas. You can be anything you want in Vegas, right? But what do I say to a young man or woman? Because I'm not a counselor. I counsel, I mentor, I coach, but I'm not trained to do what you do. So when we talk about depression, that is a serious
So I wonder,
serious situation.
can I circle back to something else, and then we can pick that up and kind of all together? And I think one of the intriguing things is that, especially with this generation now, one of the upsides of them being so plugged in and so internet savvy is that between the amount of internet campaigns, the amount of information that now is on the internet, and some of the media pushes to decrease stigma, I do feel like this particular generation is probably more prime to be open to the idea of exploring mental health, or kind of doing some self-check of, I think I might be depressed, or I might be this, or I might be that. Right. And then kind of, you Google it and, kind of check yourself.
No, yeah, exactly.
So on that hand, I do think that this generation probably is experiencing less stigma than some of the other ones. It doesn't mean that there's none. Stigma is still there. And then depending on what your job is.
You're saying this generation is experiencing less? Less
in the fact that there's been more push for it to be more normalized. Now,
okay.
Now, I'm not saying that there is no stigma and stigma has gone away. I'm just saying that there's more. It's kind of like if you look at when we were kind of teenagers, and then like Something About Amelia came out.
Mm-hmm.
And then there started being all these shows, and that's when Lifetime, I don't even know if Lifetime was out yet, but then you started seeing all these shows and all this stuff about incest. So then, kind of our generation and the generations after us, it didn't end incest. It did not end sexual abuse of kids, but it did set up a culture where there's probably more reporting than there would have been before.
Right. Yeah.
And I feel like with this kind of, with mental health, there's been more education, especially in ways that they would access, so that they may be a little bit more savvy or willing to step forward, but not that it's perfect yet, not in any means. And, naturally, there's still some professions where people would be very concerned about there being knowledge that they had any mental health issues. But, kind of circling back to what you were talking about, I think there are kind of different levels of mental health concerns or issues. There's the I'm trying to make sure that my mind is right level, which is, and I think the good thing is, as you start learning about your own mental health and mental wellness, just as, all of us know what you need to eat for your body to feel good. What do you feel sick when you eat? About how much you need to work out to feel like your body's working the way it should. When you know that, I've picked up those extra pounds, that just it's go time, or your blood pressure is up, or your feet are swelling, you need to do something. It's learning to get to that point where you have those checks with your mental wellness, so that it doesn't have to get to the point where I'm about to pass out and I'm suicidal before you realize you need some help. But it's also getting to a culture where people are more comfortable. I guess I will quote a TV show, like on Being Mary Jane.
Mm-hmm.
When I believe her name was Lisa, committed suicide. And I hate it if I'm spoiling it, but the season's over. So if you ain't seen it, you didn't know. I'm sure I didn't mess it up because you're probably on the web and already saw somebody committed suicide on Being Mary Jane in fictitious world.
Yes.
Was that culture, and especially in this plugged in internet culture, that it's the culture of, how are you doing? I'm all right. What's going on? Nothing. How's everything? Good. And it's
right.
It's getting to that place where, and I think part of mental wellness is getting to that point where you really can have, it's not you have to do it with everybody, but at least have some people that you can tap into your genuine self and give an honest answer. And also, you need to be able to check in with yourself, with your genuine self, and not lie to yourself about how you're really doing. And then part of it is being able to look at what your levels of impairment are, recognizing, am I having problems with sleep? Am I having problems going to sleep, staying asleep, or do I sleep and I still don't feel rested?
So let me just recap that. So a good mental health exercise, right, to make sure we're staying on par where we need to be, is to check in with yourself, your genuine self, be honest with you. Have someone in your circle that can check in with you, someone that's close enough to you that can check in with you, that you're comfortable being honest with. And then also to allow yourself to be that person for someone that you check in with, and don't just accept the surface. I'm cool, I'm good, I'm all right.
Yeah, and part of it comes back to some of when you get to that, it's also that relationship building of being able to form honest, true relationships with people, so that, you have someone that is actually close enough to you that you would feel comfortable. So if you have someone that's your Facebook friend that you never really talk to, that most likely is not going to be the person you feel most comfortable with. Or if you were to tell them you're in distress, they're not going to be in a position to really deal with it, because all of us also know the opposite of I'm putting out, I'm, Kim Kardashian's sister, everything is great, I'm partying, living it up, I got the best job, I just traveled around the world twice, is the person that just overshares every dramatic thing.
Right.
And kind of knowing where are the safe places to share how you're really feeling, and what are some things to do about it. So kind of going back to what your point was, I think the first question is this something little, or is this something big?
Right. Yeah.
Am I close to okay, or am I jacked up in the most loving way?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of things in my life are not functioning, or am I, because it goes to a lot of when you look at traditional mental health, like psychology and psychiatry, and being a therapist, is looking at levels of impairment. So how is how you're doing or what's wrong getting in the way of your life? So a lot of times when you're dealing with, really, like if you have kids or teenagers or college students, a lot of their spheres of function are going to be school, because you're spending most of your day at school. Where an adult, it's going to be work. And
right.
then you have the piece that's going to be family and friends, be it your parents and siblings, or when you get older, your spouse and your children, and those kinds of things.
Right.
And you're looking for a lot of the questions you'd ask. And if you were talking to someone and you're trying to coach them, it's how are you doing, how are things going, how are you performing at work, do you notice any changes in your work performance, are you noticing that you just don't feel quite as productive, are you noticing that things are getting on your nerves more, how are you getting along with your coworkers, are you feeling stressed? When it's time to go to work, how do you feel? You start feeling antsy about work the night before, because it's one thing having the kind of blah Sunday night because you really wish the weekend was longer. It's another when it's just, you feel straight
when
up
it starts to physically, as you were saying earlier, it starts to physically affect you. Do
you notice that, you're eating more? Have you stopped your usual routines? Are you no longer exercising? Or do you notice that you're isolating more, like you're not answering the phone, or you come home and you go in your room?
I'm sorry to cut you off, but just trying to get to a way that we can help for the millennials that are listening when it comes to social media, right? And this constant comparison. Are there any suggestions, recommendations, healthy habits, responsible habits of leveraging or utilizing social media that can, because it does lure you into behavior of comparison, right?
Well,
are there some healthy approaches to using social media that can prevent that?
Well, one is, I don't know if anybody watches South Park. There was this theme in South Park for a while. It was like, what would Brian Boitano do? and you kind of pick some key people that, what would my mama think if she saw this post? What would my boss think if they saw this post? And I think that kind of helps pull some of the extra madness out, because the thing is, it's still a digital footprint. Everybody wants to say that, this is private. It's only so private. So, I think
but I'm talking about going on looking like, so if I'm going on, Instagram and Twitter and I'm trolling, I'm looking at B Moore's posts, I'm looking at Winslow's posts, I'm looking at them like, wow, like they doing it. They was just getting it. They was turned up. They was up at Solus on the rooftop, popping bottles, jumping on sofas, losing their minds every weekend, And here I am. I'm chilling at the crib playing Scrabble and Words with Friends. Like, what's wrong with me?
Well, I think the first thing is keeping in mind that, you know, a lot of what you see on social media is not exactly what it says. So I think your first point was brilliant, which is just remembering that there's some part of what you see is not real. There's some of it that is, some is not. The next is you have to be clear on what you want for your own life. Because a lot of times when people look at what they're really looking for, say for instance, we'll use me as an example. If I want to be a physician, I want to be a doctor, I'm interested in maybe eventually doing some media work or something like that. Well, number one, I can't be in a position where I'm credentialing a lot of places and they start searching on the internet and they see me doing all kinds of craziness. I have to at some point not be out in the streets because I needed to have studied in school, studied in med school, studied in residency, be able to pass board exams and have some type of knowledge base that is functional for people. I need to get enough sleep so that I'm not falling asleep on people. Mm-hmm. I need to have a concentration level high enough that I can formulate ideas and communicate quickly in a short period of time. And then that sets up a certain lifestyle. And
just a quick note for my friends that I saw a few folks that are out there. I'm going to teach a quick lesson that I learned from you last week. Benji, Winslow, and who else? And I think Benji and Winslow, I'm sure some other folks out there. The bed is for sleeping. That's it. Bed is for sleeping. Go ahead, Doc.
Oh, you left out the other thing, but we aren't even going to go there. You just took a total side note. I'm like lost on even what we were talking about after you just went there like that.
No, you were making sure that we understood if you want to achieve a certain path in life, then I can't be up on the rooftop in Solus. I need to realize that.
And part of it is kind of getting to the point where, and it comes back to something you actually said this is bad. I'm starting to mix all the podcasts up.
That's all right.
Is that if someone identifies that a lot of the millennial lifestyle or thought process is securing and getting to happiness, and a lot of that is also around obtaining meaningful experiences, is keeping in mind what makes you happy and what is a meaningful experience and what is something that's lasting.
I'm clapping for real. I got a virtual clap because see, you are telling you, boy, you saying some. You go ahead, Doc. You saying some stuff tonight.
Well, thank you. But part of it is you have to know what that is for you, because there's some people that their idea of happy is going to be traditional Kim Kardashian happy. And the thing is I'll say her media image happy, because I don't know what she really is at home. She might be something totally different at home.
Exactly. I don't know if that's really, I don't know if that's true happiness.
And I don't know what she's really doing. This might be a whole media ploy, and she's cooking cookies and wearing turtlenecks at home and just posting on social media naked. Who knows?
Right.
Who knows?
Right.
She could be making chicken soup and brownies. But part of it is figuring out what is your happy. Because there are some people that their happy literally is up in the club. That's you. More power to you. That's your happy. Some people's happy is having meaningful relationships. Some people's happy is they want a specific kind of career. But it's figuring out, what does your happy look like? Because the state of happiness, it's subjective.
Well, I personally think happiness is an inside job, right? I don't think the things, as the saying goes, the best things in life aren't things, right? I don't believe that the club, that's fleeting. The watches are fleeting, the shoes are fleeting, the homes, the cars. I think those things provide temporary, but true, genuine happiness, I believe, is an inside job. And we have to own our own happiness and not allow our happiness to be dictated by things or people. And you tell me, this is my approach that I've taken over my life experience. Mitchell,
there's a person right there. With you.
There is that and one of the things that I've shared with my friends, and some of them that are on here may know this to be true, is you have to own your own happiness, right? And I'm actually talking to you, and you can counsel me on this and, say, true, you're way out of whack. But I stopped saying as an example, because my wife is awesome and she never pisses me off. But as an example,
at some point I need to meet this pile of awesomeness.
Oh, yes. You do, and you shall. Is that an example would be, I would no longer say, yo, Tamika pissed me off, right? Because I don't believe that is an accurate statement, because I have given the control to another person over my happiness versus saying, yo, I allowed what Tamika did to piss me off. Now I'm owning my own happiness. And I believe that it is, and that's why I say I believe it's an inside job. And I hear you loud and clear, but I think it's all, as someone says, smoke and mirrors, when we start to believe that those things are what fuel our happiness. You know?
Yeah, and I want to make sure we get to this lovely gentleman in the corner.
Mitchell the Lionheart. So thank you, Doc, for that transition.
And Doctor, hello.
Hi.
Yes, why don't you introduce yourself to us, sir, and all of the lovely folks in the chat room. Why don't you tell us your name? If this show is focused on helping millennials to be empowered, so let us know if you are a millennial and also where you're calling from.
Sure. My name is Mitchell the Lionheart.
You gotta get some props for that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm originally from South Africa, and I think I'm a millennial. Well, I guess I'm 36.
You are right at the top. It's from 16 to 36, 1980 to 2000.
So I am a millennial. I'm like
you barely made it.
The Papa Bear of the millennial.
Yes.
Okay, I guess. And yeah, I'm actually in Atlanta, Georgia, the dirty South.
Sweet.
Nice.
Yes, and happiness to me. I love what you said. It's an inside job. I love that. I want to use it from now on. And I was doing the garden today. I was taking out the weeds, and I was listening to some music. The TV Corporation, a really nice band out of Europe, placing like really down tempo, chill out vibes. And all of a sudden, when I was doing the weeds and the ivy, the wind started blowing. And the sun started shining on my back, and I felt a natural, organic, divine grace that everything is alive, right?
Wow.
So all of a sudden, it just triggered my feeling of happiness. I got up and I just stood, dropped the scissors, and I just stood and breathed, and I just took it all in, everything around me. From the flow, the way, the Tao, as the ancient Chinese would say, and just felt everything. And from that moment on, in that moment, it was such an incredible divine happiness that life is so precious. Life is so meaningful and purposeful. And to find that true happiness, you have to really, truly, not on an ego level, but on a divine spiritual level, love yourself and love humanity, and to find that true happiness, to practice truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance every day is important, and to be real with yourself. So I love to go on to add on to what you're saying, True, that it's an inside job. It certainly is.
Nah, brother, thank you so much for that commentary, man. That was very inspirational and empowering, man. I wish I could remember it, because I would absolutely use it and claim it as my own. I'm gonna have to watch the replay.
And you know what makes me so happy is when my being and my soul can rise above the color, the nationality, the ethnicity, the creed, the religion of every single human being, and just cherish the being in that human. That also is very lovely.
That was not. You a preacher, huh?
I feel like he's read a return to love.
Oh man, right? I guess we're all old souls. We've been around the board for a long time, and
well, I'm a believer that we are all spiritual beings having a physical experience. Correct. And so at the core, that's one of the reasons why I believe happiness is an inside job, because it is really about feeding our spirit, right? And so to your point, look, these are my perspectives, and I am a true believer that love never fails. Love conquers all. So if you feed the love more than you feed the hate, you'll always win. Because if I lead with love in everything that I do, if I lead with love as a husband, I will always rock out as a husband. Because if I'm leading with love and love never fails, then I will never fail as a husband. If I'm leading with love as a father, the way I treat my son, and I'm going to rock out as a dad. Because if I lead with love and love never fails, then I'll never fail as a dad. I'm a true believer of that we're spiritual beings here just having a physical experience. See, I'm telling you, the great meditation, you done flipped this thing into a love fest, bruh.
But you know what, true? You know what? And I'll tell you, I'll share with you, Doctor. I'm so emotional. I'm still so emotionally immature, and I get upset and I get hassled. I think that's probably emotional experience in the living experience as human beings, because no one's perfect. But as I grow, I learn to be more conscious of the feeling of fear, the feeling of frustration, the feeling of immaturity, the feeling of selfishness, negativity, positivity, in all dualities, emotional duality of life, all emotions, and I think that anger, lust, and love, and I'm not, I'm 36, like I said, and what I know what I knew at 17 compared to what I know now. I mean, Bob Marley said it best: experience teaches wisdom. What I'll know at 46 compared to what I know now, I'll learn a lot, because happiness is also about following a righteous path, following a good way, relinquishing yourself from a negative behavior or a self-doubt or a lack of self-esteem to reach your happiness. In my life, I guess, to see a human as a human, not as a black man, a white woman, a Muslim, a Jew, a Christian, a gay man, a straight man, just to see a heart. That's what's that's how I cultivate the happiness. So
see the heart. I love it. You know what I'm going to do, Doc? Y'all, yes. I am going to see if I can get Raheem Devon on as a guest next week, and we're going to talk about the love experience. Y'all going to make me go listen to that CD after we get up off of this joint. Yeah, talking about, man. So Doc, talk to me about what Mitchell the Lionheart just talked about when he was in the garden. He felt the sun. He saw saw the roses, the wind, the breeze gushing through the hair. You know what I mean? And the sunlight was just shimmying off the waters of the lake as every wave rippled across, and it just added an extra glow to the countenance of his face. Yes. So talk to us a little bit about that, Doc. And how often should we actually take time, as he just did, to literally take time to smell the roses? Do you advise and counsel people does it work?
Well, yes, it does work. And the interesting thing was, as he was speaking, I really kept thinking of A Return to Love by Marianne Williamson.
Mm-hmm.
Especially Daddy was calling.
Is your father?
Yes, my daddy. Yes, my father. Yes.
Okay.
The male person that was involved in my birth. But
yes.
Is that looking at that, not just the dichotomy emotions, but kind of looking in that particular thought pattern, it was that, that the world is love, and that spiritual beings and beings of God were built of love, and that the opposite of love was fear. And then someone had made a comment in there about, was happiness a goal or a journey? And the interesting thing is, I actually have a sign up in my house that says, it just literally says happiness is a way of life. And when we're not talking about, someone that's clinically depressed or has, bipolar disorder or significant anxiety disorder or something like that, that's just biochemically just taking them for a win, because some of that stuff, you're not going to be able to smell roses and stand up and do a couple of deep breaths and life feel all gravy. I wish it worked that way, because then I don't mind being out of a job like that.
Right.
But, stopping and having those times like that, I mean, that's kind of the keys of, one of the key feelings of mindfulness, of being able to be mindful of the space you're in, what's going on in each moment, and taking each moment as if it's special and holding on to it. And then when you look at meditation, there's actually some other there are numerous things that they'll rename them other things, and companies will give them names so they can sell it. There's something called heart math, and the premise of heart math is that when people are in a calm space, or a space kind of more in line with love or calmness, that the heart has a certain rhythm and synchronicity to it, and that there's a different amplitude of the rhythm when someone is irritable, anxious, or something else, or fearful. And the thought behind that, and it's kind of an interesting way to kind of boil down meditation, but then it's not, you're trying to either hold on to a chant or a certain thing or empty your mind. It's, you imagine what a loving or happy memory. And then whenever you start feeling stressed, irritable, angry, or out of sync, you remember that, breathe deeply, repetitively, and think of that. And then it's literally resetting yourself with that particular emotion, which ends up being a lot of what ends up having a calming effect. So if someone feels like they're kind of coming off, or you're at work, you start feeling like, oh my God, my boss is bothering me. Then you take some deep breaths and just kind of recenter yourself. So, I think what he was talking about was a lot of mindfulness. And mindfulness has a place in psychotherapy, but in regular life too, because it's, and it's getting play everywhere, because you also have mindful eating, and but a lot of it is looking at the human condition and having a moment where we're actually appreciating our humanity and the blessing and the opportunity to live life and not let life live us.
Look at that. Preach, sister, preach. They need to add instead of the hands, they need a little collection plate icon that they can just pass around. Hey, I want to extend, 1 second, Mitch. I just want to extend an invitation for anyone else that's in the live chat to please click the open seat button, call in. We only have a few minutes left, and I would love to get some commentary and feedback from some of the others that are out there while we still have some time. So please be bold. As Alexander the Great said, fortune favors the bold. So be bold and click on that open seat button. But Mitchell, you were going to say something.
I also have a suggestion. Listen to more reggae, root rock, reggae music, Bob Marley. Listen to more Bob Marley. And another thing I was going to share is, sometimes, it's life can get you down, and my work involves exposing a very heavy subject in the world, in China, the genocide in China, and the forced live organ harvesting in China. So it's not always a happy moment. But what my sadness comes from the apathy and the indifference of humans. But my happiness comes when I can look at myself at the mirror, knowing that I'm trying to do the right thing, to be the person or the being or the soul that the Creator wants me to be, or what the universe wants me to be. And as Bob Marley said also, if I was living for my life, I wouldn't want to live it. My life is for the people. My life is for others, to serve others and to help others. And in the process, humble myself, temper myself, and bring myself to a conscious elevation of mindfulness, that we are all connected and we can peacefully and spiritually harmoniously exist with happiness, with depression, with anything, the duality of our existence together. But we just have to find that unconditional love between each other's hearts and souls.
Awesome. Hey, look, we believe it or not, Doc, we've been at this for an hour already.
Can I make a couple of comments?
You absolutely. I was going to give you the opportunity to provide us with your closing remarks, closing comments. I can't believe seriously, I could continue having this conversation forever.
Yes, thank you, Doctor. I'll get off now. I'll let you share.
It was so nice meeting you.
You too.
Thank you very much, Mitchell. I started following you, brother, and thank you for all that you do, man, to make the world a better place, brother.
Thank you, brother. And true, I don't know if you've ever heard this, but have you ever heard that has anyone ever told you look like Magic Johnson?
I have heard that. Yes, have.
Blessings, guys.
Blessings, brother. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
So, Doc, wow. bless us with some closing remarks that will just give us something to chew on for the weeks and months and years to come.
Okay, I've got a couple. One is part of our humanity. Naturally, we all are striving for happiness, but there are other emotions, and I would say that one of the things to also would help with your target group of millennials is that every time is not going to be a happy moment. And the other thing is being able to be comfortable in those moments that it's organically another emotion. You know, there are times where it's appropriate to be sad or to be angry, or you know, part of it is the resilience of how you deal with those emotions and how you react to external stimuli and what gets you in certain places, and not, you know, becoming terribly irritable and going off the rocker and whatever. But, you know, part of it is being comfortable with the fact that every moment is not going to be the apex of everything. You know, everything is not going to be a 200 like moment on Facebook. You know, because sometimes that expectation will stress you out if your expectation is every moment is like that. You know, that's not every moment. That you have to be able to, part of being resilient is being comfortable and rallying when things aren't great, or there are times where it's not, things are bad. They're just not, it's not the moment where it's woo.
Right.
The next is, if you feel like something is wrong, just like you'd go to your internist, your primary care doc, or whoever you're seeing for the moment. Even, you know, someone might go to their chiropractor. If they feel like something's out of whack, it's not necessarily to the point where they, you know, I can't walk or I'm about to fall over and die. But, you know, you go to the doctor or whoever the appropriate person is and get checked out. And when it comes to mental wellness, that, you know, if you feel like something might be out of whack, it doesn't hurt to get it checked out. Worst case scenario, you go in, you go see the psychiatrist, your therapist, your primary care provider, and they're like, oh, that just sounds like you're stressed out. Let's work on some coping strategies to deal with that.
Right.
You know, because we'll go to the doctor for coughing, and you look up, it's just like an allergy. You need some Claritin. but you might not suffer at home for 3 years, you know.
Right.
While if it's something mental health related, someone may be feeling bad and they don't get checked out, you know. And I think the other thing is kind of learning places to get help, because unfortunately finding help in mental health is a bit more complicated than finding your internist, because it's a landscape of a multitude of providers, and the average person doesn't know what's the difference between a social worker, you know, a psychology level therapist, a psychiatrist. So in this closing, I do want to take a very brief moment just to describe what the difference is, so that if someone is concerned, maybe to give them a little insight of what kind of provider you need. So if it's something that you feel like, oh, I may need medication, I might feel depressed or anxious, or I'm having some problems, but I need to see somebody. You know, the main types of therapists are going to be either you'll see licensed clinical social workers. And those are therapists, and they can provide therapy. You'll have psychologists that can also provide therapy. One of the biggest differences between psychologists and psychiatrists, other than psychiatrists prescribe medication, is that psychologists do traditional psychological testing and we do not. When looking for someone, it's also like an audition. So naturally, everyone has some sense of who they are. When you talk to your provider, you have to let them know what you're looking for. And if you have concerns about medications, or you want some, you know, you don't necessarily go straight there, because there are some psychiatrists, I will admit, that are a bit more medication heavy, then you need to either tell them that, or you may want to start with a therapist first. And then if it looks like it's something more serious, then they can always refer you to a psychiatrist. A lot of psychiatrists do not do traditional psychotherapy anymore, mainly just because of billing. That the billing per unit time is more favorable a lot of times for med checks than it is for therapy. There are some that do traditional psychotherapy, but if that's what you're looking for and you're going to see a psychiatrist, you need to ask, do you do therapy? Because some will primarily just do med checks, and then you'll end up getting referred back. Places to look for providers are you can always call your insurance company. You can go online. If you want more information, you can always go. There's an organization called National Alliance of Mentally Ill. Stands for NAMI. N as in Nancy, A as in Apple, M as in Mary, I.org. Their website has a lot of good, just general information about mental health issues. You can also, there are major psychiatric organizations like the American Psychiatric Association or APA. There's another APA, which is the American Psychological Association, along with the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry. And those websites all have lots of stuff. But the main thing is if you feel like you have a question and you need help, you need to get it.
Yeah.
If there's someone in your life that you feel like is dangerous to themselves or someone else, either that they're suicidal, homicidal, or they just can't take care of themselves, or you're afraid they're going to walk out into the middle of the street and get hit by a bus because they just can't keep it together, or, or they're psychotic and not making sense, then you can always call 911 or take them to the emergency room. Because there are legitimate crises. We spend a lot of time kind of talking about kind of lower level things and, things that you could really work on a lot of times through spiritual change, exercise, meditation, and some things like that. But there are some things that are just more serious. And also, people may have some distress from latent things they never had a chance to really process, such as trauma or those kinds of things. And sometimes it takes a little bit more than meditating and saying a prayer to make that go away.
Right.
And at the end of the day, we're all responsible for ourselves, even though there are people that love us. And with being responsible for yourself, just like you're responsible for making your money, paying your bills, you're also responsible for your health and doing what is necessary to take good care of yourself and taking the steps necessary. Most of us wouldn't let our car break down and never do anything about it. But a lot of times we'll do something similar with our body and our brain.
Well, you have shared so much valuable information for me, and I think you made some really good points. And before I wrap up and just kind of give my recap of your points and your thoughts, let everyone know where they can find you.
Oh, Lord Jesus.
Give all your handles.
Well, it's because I'm working on using my handles. So my handle on Twitter, even though I have not tweeted in forever, I'm working on it. True's going to get me tweeting.
Yes, I am.
Is Dr. Erica, spelled out DOCTOR, Erica, ERICKA, no space, underline, or anything. I have a business Facebook page that's Dr. Erica. I'm working on using it again. I think on Instagram I'm Doc E Good, but I'm not really on the gram. I got on the gram because my mom was on the gram, and I felt really bad mom being on the gram and me not being on the gram.
Yeah, so Doc E Good, I'm gonna have to. I don't even think I connected with you on IG.
It's because I never use it. I literally just got on so I wouldn't be whacked because my mom was on. So I guess that's me having a millennial moment.
Hey, that's all good. It's all good. Well, Dr. E Good, Doc E Good, you have really blessed us with some jewels tonight. I thank you so much for your resilience. You talked about resilience. I know that there was a lot going on with you today. You persevered and you stayed true to your commitment, doing whatever you had to do to make this magic moment happen for the rest of us. And I really believe you provided some information that could potentially change and or save lives tonight. So thank you. So, I do not take lightly the information that you shared with me and everyone that tuned in tonight. And because I do think oftentimes mental health can be a taboo subject that people aren't comfortable talking about or addressing. And I think you made it very easily digestible for everyone tonight, and a lot less threatening and overwhelming or even too cerebral, right? It's easy to comprehend because I think a lot of times it's like you shy away from things you just don't understand, right? Because it's intimidating. And I think you did a good job of making people feel comfortable with the information tonight. So the things that I just want to share with people: be there for others, genuinely check in with people. And if you need help, ask for it. don't make it a taboo subject. It's nothing to be ashamed of. I love the analogy that you talked about. You wouldn't let your body just break down without getting help. You wouldn't let your car break down without getting help. If you feel like something is going wrong, ask for the help. And if someone comes to you and asks for help, do not make them feel bad. Do not make them feel ashamed or embarrassed for asking that help, because they're coming to you asking for that help because they're coming to you for a reason. So I thank you so much for your time, and all of my millennials. I want you guys to win, and do the things that you have been called to do, and support each other, and make sure. And I'm a big believer that as long as you stay in alignment with your assignment and you do the things that you have been sent here and that you have been called to do, then you will be all right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for checking in. We're here every Monday night, Millennials Revealed, 8:30 to 9:30 p.m. Eastern. Doc, thank you so much. It's been a true honor and a privilege and a blessing to have you tonight. Get to somewhere, wherever you're going, get somewhere safe, get out of that lonely hallway and get around some people where you can be in a safe zone.
Oh, I think it's a safe hallway. It's just, I think people are looking like, why is she on the floor? Why is she talking? Why she got an iPad on the floor?
No, well, thank you all. That you are. And I'm sure you and I will be in touch, and I'll see you on the gram. Good night, everybody. Bye, Doc.
Bye.